Okay, good evening. The planning board meeting November 14, 2017 will come to order. Member Downey?
Present.
Member Kami?
Here.
Member Eng?
Here.
Member Joyce?
Present.
Member Hanez? All right. We're going to start off right away to do the request for the as-built approvals.
Mr. Chairman, if I may default to Connor Murphy, he's done the review on those and has prepared the reports and the certificates.
Go ahead, Mr. Murphy.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. First one, we have 385 Quincy Avenue, Sickle Petroleum Site. All conditions have been satisfied. We have asked that conditions 1, 13, 15, 26, 36, and 37 be remain as surviving conditions on the deed.
Does the board have any questions or comments? Member Downey? Member Kami?
No questions.
Member Eng?
No.
Member Joyce?
No questions.
I have no questions. Chair will entertain a motion.
Motion to approve, Mr. Chairman.
Motion made. Is there a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. All right. The next matter?
For auto dealerships, they proposed to rehabilitate their Class 1 vehicle storage area. They have deviated from some of the plans. They insisted on 1 curb cut rather than 2. They also requested that they change the landscape beds to landscape planters in regards to traffic circulation. We asked that conditions 1, 12, 15, 29, 30, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 43, 44, 46, 47, and 48 remain as surviving conditions running with the title.
Okay. Any questions from the board? Member Downey?
Can you say those numbers again? I'm kidding. No questions.
Member Kami?
No question.
Member Joyce?
Just a comment on the analysis from the staff. One of the comments just talks about a security building having some unauthorized signage. Is that of a concern as far as
As far as
granting as-built approval?
no.
No.
It was
Okay.
fairly regular sign.
Okay.
Okay. Any further questions, comments?
No.
Okay, Chair will entertain a motion.
Move to approve.
Motion made, second. Second. All in favor?
Aye.
I'm going to abstain. Number
Mr.
20,
Chairman,
Millie?
Excuse me, some of the members of the audience have indicated that they can't hear
Okay.
members.
Uh,
If they want to come forward and sit a little closer,
You
that
know,
might help.
it would help if you could move forward. It's hard. I don't want to yell into this because I'll be yelling into the thing. So can everybody hear me now? Okay. The next matter is 20 Mill Lane.
We asked,
Mr. Murphy?
you approve the request for as-built approval with remaining conditions, 1, 12, 28, 34, 36, 37, 38, 39, 41, 44, 45, 48, 49, 52, 54, 55, 56, 57, 58, 59, 60, 61, 63, 67, 68, 69, 70, 71, 72, and 73 remain as surviving conditions.
What about 42?
42, no.
Oh, okay. Any questions, comments? Member Downey? Member Kami?
Is this the site where there was going to be that towing company?
No.
Okay, it's the one across the street,
This is on the other side of the tracks, correct?
the other side of the tracks. Okay,
Yep,
so
the commercial building that's, that portion of Mill Lane accessed off of Commercial Street.
okay. And do they have adequate parking there for this?
Connor and I did a site visit, and basically, most of the guys are working like in using the inside of the bays. We did see some trucks parked in the front, so the building functions from Mill Lane and then also the lower level from the back, and I think we saw maybe 1 car parked outside when we were there, so we didn't observe any parking issues when we
Okay.
were there.
The only reason I asked, Mr. Chairman, when you're taking that corner there, there's cars, where the street used to be.
Exactly.
Whenever I drive by there, there's always trucks parked there.
Oh, well,
and-
there's some sort of contractor across the
Right.
street that, at least in my experience from visiting the site over the course of the permitting and more recently, that has begun to, we observed the same thing. That's across the street, And I think it
Right.
might be a landscaper, maybe something else, and then it looks like they do use some of the very narrow way there.
Right. Okay, thank you,
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Member Ang, any questions, comments?
None, Mr. Chairman.
Member Joyce, any questions, comments?
No question or
I have
comment.
none. Chair will need a motion. Motion made. Is there a second? All in favor?
Aye.
All right. I'm going to jump over to the request for drainage bond release from 618 Granite Street.
Yes, if I may, Mr. Chairman, and draw your attention to, I prepared a quick memo that's in your packets with some backup. So when we did the Sunrise project some years ago, the planning board required a surety bond on the drainage system to be held for 10 years after the as-built. So we received the request for release, which was followed up for copies of the most recent drainage records, which indicated that some maintenance work needed to be done, repairs. So we've asked them to take a look at that, and the staff is recommending that the surety be released upon satisfaction and completion of those two items, which are highlighted in, I hope the copy, I picked it up. It's highlighted on the fifth to last page in the paragraph, talks about a basin lid that needs to be repaired, and then it appears as though some concrete is in the sump of one of the structures. So we'd like those items to be taken care of, and if the board is so inclined, to then release the surety. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Member Downey, any questions, comments?
No, I have none.
Member Khan, any questions or comments?
No questions.
Member Ang, any questions or comments?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. So could you, Melissa, could you just repeat what you just said about the remaining work? Is there remaining work?
Yep. The items that were called out by the, it's Wind River Environmental that does their drainage maintenance. And the notes from the inspection in May, and these notes were also called out in 2015. Took all pictures, everything appears to be operating properly, acted and cleaned 14 catch basins and one vortechnic system on the bottom of the property. Basin 3 has a bad lid. Basin 4 has concrete chunks in the bottom.
Okay.
All covers secure, please email pictures off ASAP. So we'd want that lid repaired, and we would want that concrete removed from inside the structure. It might even be remnant from the construction, but it wasn't called out in any of the reports until the last couple of years. So I'm sure they can get in there with a clamshell and try to remove that.
Okay, what's the schedule of that work? What's the schedule of that work?
I don't have that. I brought it to their attention and asked them to take care of it, and then forwarded them off my recommendation. So,
Okay, do we usually release the surety bond with a condition like this that exists?
yeah,
We do?
yep, we can do something like that. Yep. We don't give it back until I have a report from this company that says we were on site this day, did this work, and showed, I even said that it's been completed and paid in full. So basically a paid invoice outlining those work items.
Okay. And somebody's going to go check on this work after they say it's done?
Well, one's a confined space, I'm probably not getting in there, but we will definitely take a look at the lid, and we'll ask for some pictures as well.
Okay, okay. That's good. I'm all set, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Member Joyce, any questions or comments?
No.
Okay. Chair will entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, motion to release the drainage surety bond.
Is there a second on that motion? All in favor? Aye. All right.
Who was the second?
I think they both did the same time.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. On the November zoning board of appeals petition, we discussed it in the past. I would entertain a motion to follow the department's recommendation, move it on to the zoning board. Unless it's one.
I just wanted to make a comment if I could, with regards to the ZBA recommendations. One of the applications in particular has a very tall building proposed, and I was wondering if we could somehow either clarify with staff, perhaps Jeremy, or with ZBA. I'd just like to see moving forward. Just want to confirm that we're keeping good track of building heights and they're doing the calculations per our regulations and they're on the plans and everything, because I feel like we're really close on that 35 feet in a lot of instances and possibly even over, and I think it's important that we keep tabs on it. So I don't know the best way to,
Which application was that, Member Joyce? Add-
yeah,
or
let me
address?
see.
Is that the Ellsworth?
It might be us. I think then the recommendation was, staff was to look at varying the pitch on the roof to try to make it less, but it didn't really go into further detail about, sorry. Which one? Sorry, I should have wrote this down. Oh, I think it was, 27 Howard Street.
So basically, how is the height being,
Well, like the fall, like if you look at the elevations proposed, I mean, there isn't elevations, but if you look at this, the architect's elevations depicted, the grade around the house varies. It looks like from the front to the back by 3.5 feet. And if you just look at like the pictures that the architect provides, you know, in some instances, he's showing exactly 35 feet from the first floor, but you can clearly see that at the back of the house, it's dropping off almost a full story.
right?
The 35 feet being measured from here. So just
Right.
without, you know, there doesn't appear to be any formal calcs, so.
I was just gonna, mention, Member Joyce, there is obviously a definition for height and a method in which, it is to be calculated, outlined in the zoning bylaw, and that those calculations, be accompanied with, because it's really not measuring from just one point, as you know.
Exactly.
It's a calculation of average height, 10 feet off of the structure at the midpoint on each face, and then obviously from there. So while it might be 30 feet from the front, 35, it could be 38, 39 in the back.
Yeah, it's just unclear and looking, you know, glancing through these applications, I don't see a consistent way it being done. So if we could try to incorporate that or just relay that,
I know the planning board will.
just
Zoning is a
my
little bit of an
comment.
issue.
Thank you.
All right. I have no, Chair will entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, move to approve the
ZBA recommendation.
ZBA recommendations.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, I'm going to skip around for 1 second on the public hearings. 639 Washington Street, there's a continuance request on that.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Phelan, the applicant's representative, was here earlier and informed me verbally and signed the extension form. So if the board is inclined to continue that hearing, we'd be recommending December 13th,
Yep.
7:15.
You can, on another, Chair will entertain a motion to continue this matter till December 13th. Motion made, second?
Second.
Second, all in favor? Aye. On 36 Bramblewood Lane, I will say the applicant, my understanding is Mr. Ray is not present today. And out of respect to Mr. Ray not being here, the applicant has asked to continue this matter so Mr. Ray could be present. It's only fair to him. My understanding is he might be ill, and the applicant made it clear he would like for him to be there. So they're asking for continuance. I'm going to agree to put it over another date. I think it's the right thing to do for Mr. Ray. Is that okay? Oh, yeah. So, out of respect to Mr. Ray, again, the applicant made it clear, yeah, that he was aware that that Mr. Ray would not be here and asked for it to be put over. I don't want to take any testimony, so we'll just put. Yeah, you guys can talk about that. I just want to, so the chair wants to hit a motion to put this over. Thank you, to December. Motion made, second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Thank you. Thank you. I will tell you, when the applicant found out Mr. Ray wasn't going to be here, he himself felt uncomfortable going forward. So, all right, so thank you for being here. Thank you. The next matter on the agenda is 290 Wood Road, billboard remand order for the land court.
Good evening, my name is Kenneth Ingber. I represent the landowner. I'm also the trustee of the nominee trust. With me here this evening is R.J. Valentine, who is the principal and the real beneficiary in interest. Also with me is Mr. Chris Names, who is an industry consultant, and he has been retained by the applicant for assistance here. Before I set up, let me ask how you would like to proceed. I know that there was a staff report that was distributed. The staff report had recommended continuing the hearing pending the peer review. So the board certainly has before it voting for peer review. I'm prepared to go forward this evening. I'm prepared to continue the entire presentation. What I would like is, if you're inclined to have half a loaf this evening, I do have prepared a response to the staff report. I would like to be able to distribute that so that as you process the staff report, you can also process our response. I think you'll find they're pretty much on point.
And then we have, we're going to have a peer review done. Have you seen, we haven't started that yet, have we?
You have not voted on a peer
Yes.
review yet. We have funded it.
Okay.
It's pending, it's in your account.
Do you want to start that, or do you want to have, strike that? What I meant to say was, do you want to do the half a loaf, or do you want to do
I
the
would,
whole
I would
presentation?
very much like to do that, yes.
Okay. So let me open this up then. Is there a public?
This is, that's
It's
just a
on-
folder, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah.
This is a continued hearing, so we don't need to
All
read
right,
the notice.
All right. So we can go with the half loaf today.
I'll take the original, sir, for the record. Thank you very much.
There's so much room here. I don't like it. Thank you.
So at the original hearing, I began to present the proposal. I had gotten as far as describing the differences and the improvements between what was proposed in 2015 and that was not accepted by the board, and the presentation of why the new location is an improvement, and it had to do with the height, it had to do with the location being more than 1,000 feet away from the existing sign. It's better access, it's fewer complications, the access to electricity, access to emergency vehicles, everything is wide open. So I'd like to simply go through the items. I don't know if you've had a chance to look at the staff report yet. If you have, we can really run through it. If not, we'll take a little time with it and just run through each item here. The first item, of course, is the peer review, and we've already paid the money in, so we're certainly agreeing to do that. There was concern in the staff report about the height, and what I want to point out was that the old application in 2015 was considerably higher. The height that we're proposing now is 40 feet. Obviously, that's much lower than the maximum height. It is, as I had pointed out last time, within inches of the sign of 340 Wood Road, in keeping with what has been approved previously. There was concern last time around about electric service. There was a narrow pathway to get to where the sign was going to be. There was some question about whether the electricity was available, how it would go. Here, the electric will be from the Fit Factory building. It'll go underground. It's really a pretty ho-hum affair. You need a 200 amp panel or sub-panel. As you'll see in our response, our contractor, Greg Ziamek from Ultralum Services, has already started the dialogue with Braintree Electric and Light to get some of the details of that, but it's hardly a challenging situation. The staff report questioned a property line. I think the issue, I wasn't clear on this, but maybe you can help me out. The issue, I think, was that this was originally 2 lots as shown on a land court plan, and the survey shows, as you would expect a survey to show, that internal lot line. The existence of 2 separate lots in a single ownership renders it substantially irrelevant for purposes of planning, for purposes of zoning. It simply doesn't exist for your purposes as far as I know. It was simply shown because surveyors show internal lot lines, and that would be particularly true of land court lines. But it's all in one ownership, and the internal lot line has no significance. If there is some other concern, I'll address it.
But could I ask, on the land court lot line there, can one lot be separated and sold off?
That would depend, like with any multiple lots that have been consolidated into one ownership. If it meets zoning, sure. If it doesn't meet zoning, no. But you're basically starting over. You're basically starting, can I subdivide this property and do something else with it? But it has no significance going forward.
But it doesn't merge into one lot.
For zoning purposes, I believe it does. I have had the experience of an assessor's office in a different town
Yeah.
asking me to consolidate the lots because it was easier for them. But so far as I know, and I've done it a long time, there is no significance of internal lot lines.
Okay. All right, I'll check into that. All right, thank you.
There was a question about test borings. Ms. Stickney found that the site plan that we had submitted was nearly a year after soil borings that were taken in 2015, and she asked for an explanation of that. And you will see that there is, in fact, an explanation of that in Exhibit A to the handout that I just gave you. There's a clarification. In fact, what happened was we did borings at exactly that location initially, decided for other reasons, not we, but the applicant, Total Outdoor, decided to go on the other side of the building. That turned out not to be successful, obviously, but as it happened, we had borings in that space, and that is exactly where we're proposing it goes. So those borings, in fact, are correct, even though it appeared that there was a year difference in the dates. There was a question of the cabinet size, and the cabinet size is, as stated in the letter, it's 13.8 by 47.9. So it's just shy of the 14 by 48 that you know the size is. There was a question about the V-frame detail. We had, one of the reasons that we said this proposal was better than average was that there's only a 20-foot space rather than a 30-foot space between, at the far end of the two panels. Ms. Stickney asked for a detail of that. And what we said in the response was that revised Exhibit H shows some of that detail. However, what makes it look very clear is our Exhibit B to the response that I just handed out. That gives you a top-down look at the V, so you can actually see that V, and I think that responds completely to the staff report. There was a question about the column connection detail, and to be honest, I wasn't sure what was being requested. The revised Exhibit G and H to the original application has a detail of the column connection. It was done by our structural engineer. I think it is a complete statement of what it ought to be. If there's further clarification, I would imagine it'll come up in the peer review. If there's some question about that, we're happy to answer that, but I think we had already given a complete explanation of that. There's a question of the open space, and I need to spend a little time clarifying that. I had said both to this board in the initial presentation in the application, and I also said to the zoning board that we are increasing the nonconformity. We are decreasing open space and increasing building coverage by only 13 feet. That was a mistake. The reason it was a mistake is this: the column sticks into the ground, and that column, we thought it was 48 feet, it's 48 inches, it's actually 36 inches, a trifling difference. But when I started analyzing exactly what was going on, there's quite a substantial foundation that goes on this, and that foundation is going to be subterranean, but not by much. And so I felt it was important to recognize that the foundation ought to be addressed clearly. Approximately 2/3 of that foundation, this straddles the area where there's parking lot and the open space. So about 2/3 of the foundation will be on the parking lot side. It'll be just below the parking lot, it'll be paved over, and the parking spaces return. Approximately 1/3 of it, about 285 square feet, will be in the open space. And so the open space will be, if you will, compromised by this foundation. However, I do want to emphasize a couple of things. Number one, 285 square feet versus the 13 square feet we talked about. We're talking about 120-something thousand square feet of building coverage. We're talking about 67,000 square feet of open space, whether it's 285 square feet or something less. We're talking about hundredths of a percent change. It is a very, very small change, and we have, as I said in the first meeting, we have applied to the zoning board for a finding, not a variance, a finding that this will not be substantially, materially more detrimental to the neighborhood. And we feel that we feel confident that the zoning board will find for that. This is hundredths of a percent change. Second, this is also all industrial, commercial area. It is the area designated for the electronic billboard. And so we think that while we needed a clarification of the open space, in fact, we think that it works, it's reasonable, and that it's in harmony with the zoning bylaw. I also would point out that while we talk about open space, and it's fair to honor the open space, in this particular location, it is rock, debris, boulders, and the only vegetation, frankly, are weeds here and there, interstitial in the rocks. So it's not like there's going to be some significant removal of vegetation in this open space. It is a very rocky, craggy area, which means that the impact is significantly less than it might be in another space. There was a question about harmony with the purpose of the bylaw, and I've covered that to some extent in what I just said. And I want to be clear about this, that when we talk about harmony with the purpose of the bylaw, this is the area that's designated for electronic billboards. This is the area that the town has said, yes, this is where it's permissible. And it's perfectly reasonable because it meets the criteria of the state regulation, and it is an area that is not as sensitive as a residential area would be. So particularly with the finding from the zoning board, which is pending, the zoning board, we appeared before the zoning board, they deferred at the request of the planning board, waiting for the planning board to take action. So we are pending with them, and I presume that we'll continue again until the planning board takes an action. There was some concern about vegetation. And now we're talking, I think the focus there was the vegetation that is visible on Route 128. And for that, let me say that there is a program, and it's described in the response that I just handed out, the program directive. A copy of that is an exhibit. And what they do everywhere. It is a program of trimming vegetation. It's quite a sophisticated program, and it applies to signs as well. In fact, my understanding is that Mass Highway was out here, I think, 2 years ago, trimming. And this is something that's done on a regular basis. They do it for visibility of highway signs. They do it for keeping things safe, keeping the vegetation off the highway. They keep it. They deal with invasive species differently than native species. And one of the things in this program is keeping vegetation clear for signage. And we are looking to be treated no differently than anybody else anywhere in the Commonwealth. There is a process. The process involves the state, and it involves municipal input as well. To the extent that you may have some concerns about, and the staff report expressed concern about losing vegetation, where the program is heavily involved with professional arborists, and to the extent that there is significant vegetation that's affected by this, there's a program for the applicant paying for compensatory vegetation as well. And so when you have that, plus you have professional arborists involved with this, the net result, I think, would be perfectly acceptable. And I will be blunt about this. The gist of having a billboard, electronic billboard overlay district is visibility. And I think that is a fair compromise to allow visibility, and where the trimming might be considered excessive, for there to be compensatory vegetation, which might in the end, in fact, I would expect to be an improvement. There was a minor issue about painting the pole. We, of course, are indifferent to what color. We proposed it would be the same color as the building, but we are entirely at your disposal for what color you'd like the pole painted. I wanted to clarify that we are proposing the same public service announcement hours as the one that has been approved at 340 Wood Road, namely 6 hours a month per face. I also noted that the staff report was correct, that there was a discrepancy of 36 inches versus 48 inches in the description of the support pole, and there's a simple explanation for it. The original conception was what's called a full flag, which was where the pole is at one side and both faces stick out. That is a more challenging structure, and it required a 48-inch support column. We moved to a center mount, which structurally is less challenging, only needs a 36-inch column. That 36 inches is described in the revised exhibits that we submitted with the application. The site plan did not pick up on that change from 48 to 36. I said in the report, in the response that you have before you, we would submit the revised plan when it's available. That was just handed to me this evening, so I'm happy to distribute them this evening, but we only have full-size plans. So if you'd want me to prepare smaller size that would fit in with your package, I'm happy to do that, but I can certainly submit 1, 2, or 3 full-size plans tonight. I do have them with me. There was a question about the host community agreement. Frankly, I take the hit on this. I had said in the initial application that we had submitted a host community agreement to the mayor at the same time we submitted this application. That was our intention. We did not, in fact, do that. We thought that it made more sense to meet with the mayor directly. It took a little time to do that, and the mayor, and this is where there's some discrepancy here, the staff report reports that the mayor said that there's been no conversation. I think we could refresh the mayor's recollection. In fact, Mr. Valentine had contacted Mayor Sullivan on several occasions. They did finally have a direct communication about this. Mayor Sullivan told Mr. Valentine, why don't you wait, don't submit anything right now, wait until the planning board hears the matter. So we have a draft of a host community agreement. We stand by what we said originally, which is that we are perfectly happy to enter into a host community agreement. We will be competitive with that, but my understanding is that that is the purview of the mayor, and it's
Yeah,
not,
we
it's a little
won't get into
uncomfortable,
that.
frankly,
Yeah.
discussing it with the planning board.
Yeah.
The next item in the staff report relates to the ground signs, and we have a couple of issues there. But the bottom line is, I know that there was some concern with the planning board the first time around about there being 2 ground signs, one for the Fit Factory, one for F1, and an electronic billboard. We are offering to consolidate those 2 signs into 1 ground sign at the F1 ground sign location, not more than 150 feet. So that is within the zoning bylaw. We think it's essentially by right. And as I said, first time around, I think it's more comfortable for the planning board for us to be offering that than for that to be in a condition. There were some issues with permits, sign permits, that is. And we are still in the process of trying to chase these things down. What you'll see in our response, Ms. Stickney had tried to find sign permits, couldn't find them. What we do have is evidence, and that's in the file. There's evidence that we applied for the sign, we paid for the sign. The sign, there was both a building sign and a ground sign for F1. They were assigned numbers by the town, and nobody can find them. So it is possible that they're lost. It's possible that it was an oversight that everything was, you're a go, but we never got the permits actually issued. I will say this, I have less information about the Fit Factory sign. Fit Factory was in existence, or I should say a gym. A gym was operating for over 20 years by the time we bought that property. We do not know much about the sign. We have nothing on that. But I think we eliminate the issue if we say we're consolidating those 2 signs. I think it goes away. There was a question about who Harbor Outdoor is, and I want to clarify that as well. This application was originally made by the nominee trustee owner of the property, as well as the LLC, which is the beneficiary of the nominee trust, and it all goes back to Mr. Valentine. Mr. Valentine, as I think the board is aware, has been a serial entrepreneur for decades in the town of Braintree, and this is another enterprise that he has begun. We're starting with this location. Harbor Outdoor is going to be a competitor in the outdoor billboard business. And as I introduced earlier, Chris Names is here. He is an industry consultant of many years standing with very broad experience. And that's the explanation of where Harbor Outdoor. So Harbor Outdoor is the company that is leading this application at this
Are they
time.
the ones that are gonna build it and maintain it, or is that gonna be?
To be candid, we are in discussion, and I was going to get to that later, because there was a question about we have not submitted a lease. We have not decided whether we are going to build it and lease it out, or lease it out and let somebody else build to the specifications that will be, that are part of this application and would be approved. We're in negotiation now with a couple of national companies. Nothing, we are not far enough along to give you more information than that. What I can say, excuse me, is that, excuse me, the leases are substantially similar, one national company to another, and we're going to be dealing with one of the companies that has experience nationally and in Massachusetts, and we can give you the assurance that the lease will have, as they typically do, a full-throated provision for compliance with law, compliance with the special permit, and to be operated responsibly with no salacious material, all of the things that a responsible sign operation would have. There was a question about power, and as I explained earlier, the power is going to come from the Fit Factory building. It's a very uncomplicated situation. We don't know right now whether there's enough power coming from the street into the building so that all we need to do is put a sub-panel in. It needs, each face draws about 64 amps, but because of operation, we need a 200 amp panel. So if there's enough juice into the building, we just add a sub-panel. If not, we deal with Braintree Electric and Light and bring additional power into the building and then to the sign. Again, because it's out in the open, it's a pretty ho-hum affair. There was a question about what advertisers we would have, and frankly, this is market-driven. This will not be substantially different than any other responsible advertising business. Maintenance, there's a question of this. We do not have a specific maintenance program at this time. There probably will be one in connection with the construction. But the industry standard is that once a year, the steel, the structural portion of this is inspected thoroughly. Any scratches are primed and painted. The bolts connecting the column to the foundation are inspected carefully. There are indicators on those bolts to show an inspection if there's been any compromise. If there is any question about it, the bolt is removed, a new one is put in and retorqued to standard. The digital billboard itself doesn't really have a regular kind of maintenance, and the reason is that the self-diagnosis is that good. So you typically have, anytime there's a problem with it, you might have a 12 by 12 tile that goes out, which is not terribly noticeable, certainly not a distraction, but the self-diagnosis will generate an email to the people who need to be notified. That would be the operator, the owner. And there are, the national companies have their own stable of contractors. There are plenty of contractors available who maintain these billboards on a regular basis. And that's the way it operates. And we have our own self-interest in making sure that it operates properly, because that's how you make money. There was a question about the fall zone. We are happy to provide you with a plan that shows the fall zone. I think it's not terribly complicated, and it's as I've described it. We are, the edge of the billboard is going to be 30 feet off of the property line. The property line is some distance from the edge of the ledge at the top. So by my calculation, and it's not a very complicated calculation, if it falls absolutely at the base, straight down, and it flips over so that the billboard is extending to the furthest way possible, you still are shy by about 11 feet of the edge of the top of the hill. There's no question, and we have exhibits that talk about this. If there's something of that catastrophic nature, the billboard is going to fall apart, and it's certainly, we can't say where the debris is going to go. It is possible that some of that debris will fall down the hill. That's simply,
Just on a quick note, if we say, and I know it never happens, but say hypothetically it fell.
yep.
Would it go over the edge or would it fall
No,
short of the edge?
the structure itself, if you add up, if you have it tilt from the very base,
Yeah,
and it falls straight
Toward
toward
the highway.
128.
yeah,
And then the face itself pivots so that it also is another half of the 48 feet that they're
Yeah.
48 feet long. So half of that plus the entire length of that is still shy
Okay.
of that by my calculation, about 11 feet. And I'm not shy to tell you that my calculation, because it's not very complicated. I scaled it off, and it's clear that it's not there. But again, as I say, in fairness, if the thing shatters and really falls apart, because the steel is not going to shatter, but
the debris is different, I'm worried about the whole thing.
the steel is going to fall shy, yes.
Can I ask just a clarification question, Mr. Chairman?
Please.
Sir, 11 feet interior to Mr. Valentine's property line?
No, 11 feet to the edge, to the top of the ledge.
So, but it potentially could be into the layout line?
That's right.
Okay, thank
That's
you.
right. And this, by the way, is one of the benefits of having a somewhat shorter pole, that we are in compliance 30 feet off of the rear line, and with a short pole, that does enhance safety. It was not part of the plan, but that's the way it works. It was
So the fall zone is not wholly contained within your property?
That is correct.
Okay, thank you.
That's correct. If you take a look at the explanation, top of page 7, you'll see that I do the calculation.
Okay.
And as I say, if you would like a full zone shown on a plan, we could certainly bring that with us, but it didn't seem terribly complicated.
I think it satisfies people just to see
Thank
it
you.
visually.
So I'm sorry, is that a yes, that you would like
Yes,
the
and
plan?
I think it satisfies people to see it visually, so.
Be happy to then. Next issue that was raised in the staff report was hacking. And there's some concern, obviously, that these are electronic, and like every other electronic device, there is the worry. There are either 1 or 2 reports that people have heard about, particularly one in Georgia. And the industry certainly has its own interest in keeping these as safe as can be. We are using a Daktronics model billboard, which is an industry leader. We're using the Venus Suite software, which also is the industry leader. These are able to be upgraded. They have a variety of features similar to what you would find in a computer network. That includes encryption, it includes passwords, and responsible operators will take advantage of those, and we certainly intend to do that as well. Can it ever be hacked? The answer is, I don't know, probably, because there are 14-year-old kids
Nowadays, you
out
can't
there.
guarantee that stuff, so.
But I could say that there's no difference here than any other billboard, except to say that this is industry leader materials and software. There was a question about additional uses, and we're happy to have a condition of the special permit that this is limited only to a digital billboard and not for cell phones or anything else. I already addressed the question of there not being a lease. There will be at some point, but we don't have it yet. Longevity was a question. This is not different than other, other billboards. The structural steel is built to code plus, and with proper maintenance, the lifespan is almost indefinite. when I posed the question to one of our consultants, he asked, how old is the Citgo sign? I mean, we have a long history of signs being very robust and properly maintained, last indefinitely. The digital billboard themselves, they have a lifespan of neighborhood of 7 to 10 years, and then they are replaced. There was a question of brightness, and I will ask you to look at Exhibit E to the response that I handed out. There's actually 2 letters from the manufacturer, Daktronics, one dated November 2, one dated November 6th, that deal with brightness, and there is a brightness analysis attached to one of those letters. So that is my presentation on to the response to the staff report. I hope that that was complete and that responded to every one of the concerns. I do have the plans. If you'd like me just to walk you through what it looks like, just where it's located on the plan, or we can do it in the next meeting.
Thank you.
I do have the updated site plan, so I think what I propose is to give the board 3 full-size plans, and I will distribute smaller sized when I get them.
Sure. So, right now, the board will vote on a peer review.
Correct, we do need, as stated by council, they have submitted the materials, and Christine requests that, thank you, sir, that the board vote to engage that consultant to get going on the structural.
Well, I'm going to suggest we vote on the peer review and see what they say before we do go anything further, but I'm going to leave it up to the board. Vote, peer review. All right, Chair will entertain a motion for the peer review. Made by Member Eng, second by Member Downey. All in favor? Aye. Aye. Okay, now we're going to put this, so how long will the peer review take?
Sorry, I'm just writing. I'm not exactly sure. I believe the materials are in that are going to be sent to him. I would say a couple weeks probably, and then some time for back and forth. We have December 13th, and then we also have January 9th. So the 13th will probably be cutting it close. I'm not exactly sure,
Yeah.
like they'll issue the report, will you have time to respond? I'm not exactly sure. Otherwise, January is probably, that's an option too, so.
We do have the ability to look at what the peer review looked like last time around, and I'm planning in the next day or two submitting some of the information that was requested first time around so that there'll be less of a delay. And I think I'd be inclined, we can certainly jump on the response from the peer review.
I just want to let people know, we have a rule now that at 11 o'clock it all stops. So we are fully packed that day in December. So I just want to have you wait, all of a sudden come 11 o'clock it all stops.
We have 6 hearings scheduled right now for December.
I'm happy to take my chances.
Then I'm going to leave it up to the board.
Mr. Chairman, can I ask you, in the proposal from the peer review engineering company, how many hours have they put into this effort? We can tell by that how much time they would need.
The amount of money we posted was $15,000 and change.
But how many hours are they taking?
I have
to-
not seen, I don't think I've seen the proposal, I was just given the.
Is
I'm
anybody-
sorry, Mr. Ring, I can't answer that question. I'm not involved at that level.
Okay, all right.
We have a pool on that day too.
Yes, we have 3 new hearings and 3 continued
We
hearings.
do have the pool on, so that's going to make sense of one. But again, I'm going to leave it up to the board, and I understand where you're coming from, but
We're anxious to complete it, and,
Understand.
Because they would have to submit any new materials 2 weeks before that date. So that basically Thanksgiving,
I understand. We will certainly respond promptly whether those dates work. If they don't work, then I think I can probably work with the staff and agree without even appearing. If it's clear that it's not going to work, we'll continue it, we'll agree.
Yeah.
In fact, I'll make the representation here, so it's on the record here.
If it just gets too close,
If it
then,
get, if we will work with staff. If it doesn't seem to be practicable, we'll extend it to January.
Okay. So, Chair will entertain a motion.
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman. I have one question for you,
Please.
Counselor. In the letter you submitted tonight, you talk about column connection details, and you say that you are showing revised exhibits G and H.
In revised exhibits G and H, I believe that detail shows it, particularly the plan.
But it's not attached.
Not to the, no, this is G and H of the original application. We had already submitted that.
Okay.
In candor, I think that the staff report did not fully appreciate what we had submitted, or I do not understand what the staff report is asking, because I thought that the connection in revised exhibit H is a complete statement of the connection.
Okay. I thought it was part of this letter.
No,
But
no,
if
no.
it's part of the plan, we'll look at the plan.
As part of the original application, if you've got the original application, then revised exhibit H should have everything that's requested. If it's something else that's missing, I don't understand it, I'm happy to supply whatever's needed.
Okay. As long as the revised exhibit Gs and H exist in somewhere in your submission.
I'm hoping that if you have the original packet, it should be there.
The original packet from.
Our original application had exhibit G and H.
Yep.
That was mistakenly had a full flag configuration. So a couple of weeks later, I submitted the center mount with a revised exhibit G and H. And those revisions you should have, and you can take a look at the original submission also. The configuration of the connection should be there in all glory.
Okay. The package I have in front of me is dated August the 1st. Is there one submitted after August 1st and now?
can you pass the file down to me? Sure. I can try to see if, so if I may, I believe Attorney Inberg submitted some revised plans on August 8th, is that correct?
August 8th is exactly right.
Yep, so it would be August 1st, I believe, is the original submission. And then we have some revised materials here.
Mr. Ring, do you want to take a quick peek at the full-size plan, just to make sure that we have something,
If they were submitted on August the 8th, it should be in our files.
Yes, yes.
Okay? It's just that I
We
don't.
we had a bit of an issue last time around because the packet, for reasons that I could not figure out, were incomplete, but staff made sure that you have a complete package. So in your own packets, you should have the revised, the August 8th revisions.
Okay.
And that should have everything you
Okay.
need, I think. And if I'm mistaken, we'll submit something else, but
Just for the record, I just want to make sure that something was submitted to illustrate revised exhibits G and H.
yes, on
somewhere.
August 8th.
Do you have it in your files, Melissa?
I'm just confirming it's those exhibits, remembering, one second. Sorry, I'm not overly familiar with the file.
So-
And the difference was that we went from a full flag to a center mount. But each of those plans would have the column connection.
So we have August 8th, the original submissions, Exhibit G and H contained, blah, 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 enclosed or revised. So if the board members do not have those, what I suggest is that we recirculate this memo via email and follow up with hard copies.
Yeah, please.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Well, but Mr. Kami.
Hi, Mr. Ingberg.
since you brought up the host community agreement, as the chairman said, it's not under our purview, but, clearly there's a lot of economic value attached to this project.
Sure.
And now that we have one billboard up already, in my opinion, we've discussed, with the mayor that, there's even more value because there's something operating. So I just put that out to you, just to remind you that there is a lot of economic value created. So when you have your discussion with the mayor, you look at it, I think you used the word competitive.
Positively.
So I like the word generous as well. Mr. Valentine's been here a long time, but just making a note of that.
I appreciate that.
Okay, and I have one other thing.
Yes.
So there was discussion I heard, whenever, last month or the month before that, that the facility or property might be sold, F1 or whatever. So I don't know what the details are, if that's true or not, but let's say, for example, hypothetically, that it does get sold, then how does this, the property involving the billboard and the business of it, how would that be structured relative to some sale?
The billboard would be an asset of the owner, the same way, I mean, who owns the property? And let me just say,
Okay, so what you're saying to me is it's going to be part, it could theoretically be part.
every
part of it.
property could be sold,
Okay.
yes, and this one could be sold
right.
too. But the special permit attaches to the land.
Right.
The operation, the billboard is attached to the land. There is a lease. That lease is between the landowner and the operator of the billboard, and that would, like a long-term tenant on a property, would go with the sale.
Okay, so,
Wait, hold it, you have to go up there.
yeah, and I guess the corollary to that would be, what I was thinking was, what if it didn't get sold? Is this, since you're creating a new company here, just thinking. So what I'm interested in is, what could it look like? And are we going to have enough protections, whoever owns it going forward?
The protections would be, again, the
Yeah,
owner.
no, I understand, I just want to hear you say it, that's
Fine.
that's
The owner of the land is, for these purposes, irrelevant because there will be a special permit. That special permit will have the usual conditions. I would expect them to be conventional conditions so that the operation of the billboard would be conventional and responsible and just the sort of thing you would expect. And that would be part of the package if a new owner comes along. Those obligations are the same as any other special permit. The operation would have to be consistent with that permit, and if not, there's a violation of that special permit.
Okay,
I'd just like to say something. There's been a lot of rumors for 10 years about that property being for sale, and people have approached me. I'm operating a very successful business there, but as he said, if it did happen, we would just segregate that piece of property out. It would not be, included in the sale. It couldn't be, okay? It'd have to have a long-term lease, and it could be for years.
right, again, it's just something that we heard when you were supposed to, speak a couple months ago, maybe it was a month ago. I had heard it, and you're right, and I just wanted to understand, what we're dealing with. I understand the special permit, I just want to hear you say that. What you do is obviously your own business, but whether it's part of it or separate, just, have we considered that?
But I just
I don't
wanted
think
just the
so.
rumors. The rumors are just that, rumors. It's been going on for years.
Sure,
And it's not recent.
okay. Well, I can get a fee if something happens after tonight. Thank you. Okay, thank you, sir.
Okay. Chair will take a motion to continue.
Motion to continue, Mr. Chairman.
There's been a motion to continue this till
December 13th?
December 13th.
Yep.
Is there a second? Second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Next matter on the agenda is Logan Communications. You just woke yourself to that. See if this shit's- You can't. So I'm going to get into, all right, the legal ad. Notice is given by the Braintree Planning Board under provision of the Master General Law, Chapter 48, Section 911, and Braintree Zoning Ordinance, Chapter 135, Articles 2, 5, 6, 7, 9, and 11. The public hearing will be conducted on Tuesday, November 14, 2017, at 7:15 p.m. in the Braintree Town Hall. The planning board will consider an application submitted by Logan Digital, 129 Border Street, East Boston, for a special permit to erect a digital billboard on the Braintree zoning ordinance Article 2, 5, 6, 7, and 9 include the recently amended Section 910 Billboard Zoning Overlay District. In Article 11, the proposal is for 60-foot high semi-flag style digital LED billboard, double face. Each sign face 672 square feet. In the area, the proposed location of the digital billboard is at 236 through 240 Wood Road, the southwest corner of the lot adjacent to Interstate I-93 southbound. The existing lot located at 236 through 240 Wood Road, owned by F9 Properties, LLC, is identified as Assessors Map 2053B, Plot 6, comprised of 3.377 acres, zoned highway business. Okay, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, members of the board, my name is Thomas Moriarty with the law firm Moriarty, Troyer, Malloy, 30 Braintree Hill Office Park in Braintree. I represent PGG Outdoor, LLC, DBA Logan Digital. This is an application, as the board chair has mentioned, for a special permit to authorize the construction and operation of a 14 by 48-foot semi-flag, 30-foot VED LED monopole digital billboard on property located at 236-240 Wood Road in Braintree. Logan Digital is a family-controlled local business, Massachusetts business. The principals have been in the industry close to 40 years. Representatives of the company are here this evening, Allison Goldberg and Janice Espinel. I'm not going to discuss in detail each of the criteria under the special permit established under 503I or 9105. Those are discussed in detail in the application. I will certainly entertain questions with regard to each of those criteria, but I wanted to focus my comments this evening on what the applicant perceives as most significant with regard to the project, as well as to highlight features of the project which are not necessarily reflected in the submissions. The basic technical characteristics are provided, but I'll just go through them briefly. The property itself, as I'm sure you're aware, is zoned highway business zoning district. There is an overlay, obviously the billboard zone overlay district in which the property is located. The ground elevation and the location of the sign is 114.8 feet. The sign elevation itself is 174.8 feet. The sign height is 60 feet from the ground to the top, which is obviously less than the 75 feet cap. The sign size, excuse me, as I've mentioned, is 14 by 48 feet. Square footage, doing the math, is 672 square feet, which is below the size limit. It's not within 500 feet of another permitted sign. It is not within 1,000 feet of an off-premise permitted sign or on either side of the road of I-93, and it's not within a 1,000-foot radius of any residential property. The members of the team, they're identified obviously in the submissions, but All Steel Structures, Inc. is fabricating the billboard. They will be responsible for all the structural elements. They've been in the business a long time. They are well-known, kind of top-tier fabricator. The sign is being made by Daktronics, which is again, one of the leaders in the industry, well-known in the industry, and the surveyor is Dana F. Perkins, Inc. I'm sure is well-known to most on the board, but his office has performed the survey work. The supplementation contains additional science and engineering. Supplementation was provided by the applicant on November 1st of this year. Based on test borings that were performed, the All Steel made a determination to abandon the direct embedment approach with regard to securing the pole in the ground, and has gone with a spread footing. And that's just based on where it hit ledge on the property and the location of the pole. That is shown in detail on the plan. Actually, the calculations and the detail is shown on the submissions that were made on November 1st. Also, as part of the supplementation to the application, a shadow study was performed. That's attached as Exhibit D to the November 1st supplementation. That shadow study provided shadow analysis at 9 a.m., 12 noon, and 3 p.m. on 4 different dates: March 20th, June 21st, September 22nd, and December 21st. As you will be able to see, I should say, from that study and the photographs that are attached to the supplemental application, there are no adverse shadow impacts on the neighbors. The structure that's shown in the photograph is actually a structure that's located on the premises, and there's no shadow cast on Route I-93. The revised profile plan, which is Exhibit C to the supplementation, that now shows the lumber liquidator sign. Now, that lumber liquidator sign is not a billboard as defined underneath under the bylaw, because it actually advertises a business that is on site. That lumber liquidator's sign relates to the lumber liquidator's business that is presently on the premises. The lumber liquidator sign is shown on that plan, which is Exhibit C, is 41 feet high and has an elevation of 155.8 feet. The renderings, which have been provided this evening, this shows the view of the sign from I-93 north. That is on obviously the southbound side of the car driving northbound. This rendering shows signage.
Do you use the microphone that's behind the staff? You can, like, bring it with you.
Certainly.
Awesome, thank you.
Sure. So both photographs show the height of the sign, and you can see from the rendering that the sign itself is consistent not only with other signage along that stretch of the road, but also other buildings along that stretch of the road, as well as the canopy provided by the trees in the area. Now, there are other requirements contained in the bylaw that are outside the specific special permit requirements found in Section 503I and 910-05. I just want to touch upon those briefly. Pursuant to Chapter 135, Section 702B, the sign cannot be located within a buffer as defined by the bylaw. It is not located within a buffer as defined by the bylaw. Also pursuant to Section 9042B, the sign cannot be located more than 100 feet from the interstate. It is not within 300 feet of another billboard as defined by the bylaw in Section 102, excluding the lumber liquidator sign, which is not a billboard as defined by the bylaw. The sign will, in fact, be permanently affixed as required by that section. The exposed areas will be treated and maintained. We do not have a specific proposal with regard to paint colors presently, but we would propose generally painting it to blend in with the building on site. The square footage, as I mentioned earlier, does not exceed 750 square foot per side. It's below the 15-foot height and 50-foot width requirement, and the sign does not exceed 75 feet. So it's in compliance with all those requirements of Section 904.2B. I did want to point out that a clarification is necessary with regard to the original submission on September 15th. There was attached there to a letter dated September 11th, 2017. And on page 8 paragraph 2D. It provides that Logan Digital has successfully worked with the Division of Highways to display emergency alerts on other signs in the Commonwealth. That was not Logan Digital. That was principles of Logan Digital, but it was through a different entity. So we just wanted to clarify that. Logan Digital does not have that record of performance, but the principles of Logan Digital do. I'd also point out that just as worded, it says worked with the division to display emergency sign or display emergency alerts. It was set up to display emergency alerts, but to my knowledge, no emergency alerts have in fact been displayed on that sign. I just didn't want to leave that ambiguous. I also want to discuss briefly the issue of safety. It's obviously important. There's has always been a concern with regard to the effect of digital billboards, or any billboard for that matter, adjacent to a well-traveled highway as we have in this circumstance. The studies that we have been able to identify, some of which were performed by Mass DOT, indicate that this does not interfere with traffic or increase the risk of accident. The specific study that was performed by Mass DOT, which was then Mass Highway in 2008, commissioned the study. They studied 8 different locations in Massachusetts. All of the traffic engineers that were involved in that study reached the conclusion that there was no detrimental safety impact associated with the digital billboard in any of those study areas. And those study areas included urban locations. Was Fall River, Stoneham, Lawrence, 2 locations in Medford adjacent to I-93, New Bedford on I-95, Foxborough on Route 1, and in Chicopee, Massachusetts on Interstate 90. There has been a concern with regard to certain signage in the past, and that was the tri-vision signs, where they were the signs that would flip. You know, there wouldn't be an instantaneous change from one display to the next, and those were a concern, and those were shown to have a concern. But in this instance, the digital display has an immediate change.
Yeah, I know you're going down. I have some serious concerns. I always have with even digital signs.
Okay.
Because I've heard people say there have been studies and there's there isn't any evidence of them causing accidents. But I guarantee you that's an impossibility, because nobody's ever gone and studied every single accident that occurred on every highway in the United States. So they do occur. But historically, I will tell you from my own personal knowledge, and again, I'm not debating the issues, I'll debate it with them, I debate it with everybody. These signs have always troubled me, because there is that hesitancy where it goes from one to another. How many people, even in the audience, have slowed down to see what the next sign's going to say, or hurried up to catch that sign that just is ready to switch over to read it? It happens. And so the study factor, I know we don't deal with it much, but I mean, there are some countries that outlawed completely billboards because of the safety issue. So the safety issue that people say there's studies, and I will submit it to you too. The studies aren't valid unless you can show me that every single accident that occurred in every single roadway that had a billboard has been investigated to determine that that billboard did not cause that accident. Other than that, how many fender benders exist that we didn't even know? People look at a sign, police aren't called, they're not part of the study, are they? So I question the validity of, again, not you, I know you're relying on those studies. The
No, I
validity of
understand
those
the
studies
concern.
are very questionable.
No, there's no question. It's why we're addressing it. I mean,
Yeah.
we recognize the importance. The thing I would say with regard to this particular study, and it's why we think is probably most reliable. I mean, this is not a study that was commissioned by, industry interest. It's not a study. I mean, it was commissioned by the Mass DOT. And I understand there is no study, in the world. There's no traffic study, there's no accident study, there's no turning ratio.
And I like debating this, and I know I'm not putting you on the spot because I put them on the spot too. I'll put everybody on the spot.
Well, I feel like you're putting me on the spot.
The DOT says it's safe, but the studies have shown that to keep your eyes off the road for 4 seconds, or I think it was 6 seconds, causes a safety issue. The first sign stays on for how long?
They're 10-second intervals.
10 seconds.
That's
You
the,
read that one. How long does it take you to read it? 3 seconds?
that I can't, that
Yeah.
I don't know.
It flips over. You read the second one. You already, your eyes are off the road for 6 seconds, which is above the safety seconds you should be off the road. So again, that's DOT's numbers. And again, the studies have shown taking your eyes off the road. I don't believe it's 6 seconds. I actually believe it's low. I think it's 4 seconds. Causes a safety hazard. You read a sign, takes you 3 seconds. It switches over to the next one, that's another 3 seconds. So overall, you're taking your eyes off the road for 6 seconds. It's not the right way to, so DOT's approval of these, I question wholeheartedly. I really do. It just contradicts what safety measures have, studies have shown. Bottom line is this: we're told people not to text or read a text, but you can look up and away from the road to go read a sign. It just doesn't make sense, but that's my issue with
Well,
billboards.
and we certainly understand the concern
Yeah,
associated,
yeah.
you know, and anyone would have the concern. I can say simply from the applicant's perspective that we have performed an exhaustive search for studies. I mean, not to identify studies that were simply helpful. I mean, we understand that there is a concern among many regulators, not just this board. And there were also studies, and I understand the fundamental concern you have will exist regardless of me saying the National Highway Transportation
Yeah.
Safety Board. There are other,
And I will tell you, I hold you to know the same thing I hold them, and I've had this argument with the people that have it on there right now. Is the studies were focused by the industry that actually has there's actually a study, I forgot the name of the study because I didn't prepare for this. The study was actually made up and I'm sorry, financed by the industry itself that the National Highway Traffic Safety relies on. I forget the name of that, but I'll get it for you for next time. And I'm telling you, the safety factor is, with these signs, is really questionable. The numbers are questionable. I know that Mass Highway says they're okay, but I challenge anybody to tell me the difference between that and looking at a text. You're looking down at a text, you're looking up at a sign. What you're not doing is looking in front of you, and that's a concern.
well, I can say honestly, as, you know, applicant's counsel, I don't have the technical
Yeah.
expertise to say the difference. I could say generally, there is a difference between looking out the windshield and looking down into the interior of the car in that example.
I'm gonna, right there, that sign. I'm looking down, I'm looking up at a sign that's up there that high. Does it make a difference? Am I looking straight ahead? Am I looking for 6 seconds up there to see that thing switch? I am. Again, I beat this horse over every time it gets in front of me because I'm very concerned about billboards. I'm very concerned about the safety factor. And with any billboard, don't forget the purpose of a billboard is to what? To draw your attention off the road to read the sign. Think about it, bring it out at a very basic level. The purpose of a billboard is to what? Take your eyes off the road and read that sign. And now that they switch, you're possibly reading 2 signs.
Well,
So,
and that's the thing I can't comment on in terms of the
Yeah, no, I know.
duration with regards to switch. But I would say, Mr. Chairman, there are all types of examples, you know, directional signage that we have relied on the interstate highway system since, you know, President Eisenhower formed the interstate highway system. So signage with regard to exits, not this exit, but maybe the next exit, all at an eye level that, you know, requires the driver to lift their eyes up off the macadam surface itself. So I mean, so there are.
different purpose though.
It is for a different purpose, but if the concern is safety, it should naturally be the same concern in terms of directing your eyes off the macadam. And like I said, I understand it, but there are many, many examples where drivers are expected to momentarily take their eyes off, let's say, the macadam or the car in front of them. But obviously, you would never expect a driver to do that in a circumstance where it was patently unsafe to do so. But all I can say from the applicant's perspective is that we've done our homework with regard to the studies, as most applicants would. I understand
I
the
will argue
chair's.
with this issue with every applicant, with them, with anybody. I argue with the last one too. Signs, street signs are what? Green and white. They're consistent in color. Okay. Billboards are not. Why? You see, you're looking for street sign, you're looking at the exit. Here, they want to grab your attention with the bright colors, with the flickers, with everything, and that's a safety issue. But again, I know, I understand, I respect what you're doing, I respect what they're doing, I respect what the other people do. That's not going to alleviate my concern I've always had with billboards,
Right.
especially since I have young kids that drive.
Yeah,
You know.
as do I, Mr. Chairperson.
Especially when I look back to read the other sign as I'm going by it myself, so, you know, and I can't lie, I've done it. I've looked back to see what it was gonna say. It was stupid, but I've done it. You know.
Well, the one thing I would say, I guess, is that the signage will not flicker.
Yeah.
It will be static, and if it draws the eye, which it certainly is intended to do,
Yeah.
you know, that we can say simply that that sign will be designed to the state of the art that engineering and science allows a sign to be designed with regard to that issue.
Thank you.
So I do recognize and understand that the question with regard to compensation to the town is not really within this board's purview, but I will nevertheless point out that Logan Digital's proposal believes it is very generous with regard to the town. The original application referenced a 25-year period, $100,000 per year. The supplemental proposal adds an additional 25 years and includes an accelerator, so that it'd be 105 for the first 5, and it will go up $5,000 a year. So the total payment to Braintree would be $6,125,000 over the 50-year period. We also had included in the original submission, which remains available to the town, of doing $1 million of that lump sum up front in connection with the permitting of the sign. The other thing I would stress, and this does go back to a certain extent to the balancing, you know, that comes up in connection with the perceived distraction that any signage might have, but that it has some value to the public as well. As I'm sure this board is aware that the state requirement is to provide 15 hours per month to the Department of Public Safety for public service announcements. And those include Amber Alerts and other you know, issues of concern, emergency, the ability to provide emergency notification to drivers on the road, which itself has value. I mean, the fact that you can have an Amber Alert immediately posted to a digital sign, the fact that other emergency warnings can be immediately posted to a digital sign, separate digital signage obviously from the traditional billboard at the side of the road, which could not possibly, you know, provide that type of instantaneous security and emergency awareness for drivers on the road. Logan Digital is also proposing to allow, and of course I understand this board has the ability to determine what percentage will be for public service in the city of Braintree, but we suggest that a minimum of 10 hours a month be made available to Braintree. That will allow Braintree essentially to use that billboard for any public service, municipal-related activities, youth organizations, any type of you know, public service needs or desires that Braintree may have in that month period. The submission, I'll just identify the submission. The subsequent submission provides full-size plans of the digital display, which I will just address for one moment. So this digital display shows the height of the lumber liquidator sign, which I mentioned earlier, the sign proposed by the applicant, Logan Digital, and the height of the signage proposed for 290. It also has a layout showing the locations of those two proposed signs. But as you can see, there's a marked difference in overall elevation of the sign proposed on 290 as compared to the sign proposed by Logan Digital on the subject locus. Now, the fact that I didn't review in detail each of the criteria from the special permit is by no means a suggestion that we don't think those elements are significant or important. They are on paper, they've been addressed on paper, the board has them, and we just didn't feel it would be in the board's interest or in the interest of time to go through each one. If the board has any questions with regard to those specific elements, I'm happy to do my best to respond, but otherwise, that's the presentation.
Thank you. What is the board, any questions? Member Downey?
Question about the PSAs that you mentioned. You said that there's no specific, at least I don't see a specific amount of hours reserved for the town. Is that right?
So, yeah, it's within the board's discretion to set those, but we suggest a minimum of 10. But it is within this board's purview to set that.
Okay. And the linkage payments, they're set out in Exhibit B, is that right? for this?
So the linkage payments are set out in Exhibit C, I believe, to the original submission, which was essentially a letter to the mayor dated June 29th, 2017. But they're also, the additional payments are incorporated into the supplementation in the letter itself dated November 1st, 2017, on page 2 of that letter. That shows the 50-year span, 100,000 with the accelerator of 5,000 each 5-year period.
So what are those based on? How are you coming up with those numbers, the 50 years and so forth, 195?
So the 50 years we went from 25 to 50 to give the additional certainty to the town. The 100 with the accelerator is essentially an effort to make the project seem financially appealing with regard to that item. I mean, it's essentially to make it as attractive as we possibly could within, the financial realities associated with constructing and operating the sign, so that it was desirable for Braintree. I mean, we certainly recognize that we have an economic interest in constructing and operating the sign from the location, but at the same time, we recognize that the law affords Braintree to take advantage to a certain extent of those linkage payments.
It just isn't 50 years, 195, am I reading that?
It's 145, I think, so for the last 5 years, it's $145,000 a year. It goes up 5 every 5-year period.
According to Exhibit B that we have, it's $195,000 for the last 5 years.
Yeah, that's what I'm looking at. I guess it really doesn't matter, for purposes of my question.
Well, I would say this, that my client has not withdrawn anything that was previously offered to the mayor in connection with the original submission. So if those numbers are there, I mean, I will check by the time of the next hearing and confirm that. I know that the addition, I didn't believe a 50-year proposal had been offered in connection with the first submission. So, but I can confirm that. I thought, quite frankly, the 50 years came up just with the supplemental, but I may have missed that in the original application.
Well, I won't be here in 50 years to verify what the rent is, so my only thought is that 195,000 in rent in 50 years may not be, who knows? If that's a lot of
Right,
money,
so,
or
yeah,
we're
so
still,
the-
and the town's still getting 100,000, right?
Right, no, and that's why we've offered it at 25 years originally. I mean, it could be that the municipality looks at this, Braintree says, well, you know what, we'd rather be at 25 and have it renegotiated in 25 years. We certainly understand. There's certainty associated, obviously, with bringing it out, the 50, and it certainly increases the gross number. But as I said, we did not withdraw any component of the earlier linkage offer that was reflected in the letter to the mayor.
That was the only question I had, Mr. Chairman, only other one.
All right. So the chair will entertain a motion to continue this to another date.
Mr. Chairman, this particular applicant, I don't believe, has received an estimate from the structural peer review, but that could happen between now and the next meeting. So if the board, prior to the continuance, could vote to enter into the peer review, and then Christine can deal with the applicant regarding the deposit of funds and the contract.
Okay.
Thank you.
Chair will entertain a motion to request a peer review. Motion made, second by Member Downey, all in favor? Chair will entertain a motion to continue this matter.
December or December?
Yeah, why not? We'll stay here till January.
So December, everyone bring a pillow and a sleeping bag.
Yeah,
December 13th.
sounds fine. Motion made, second.
Second.
Member Downey? Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, and with the same, I guess, understanding that if things have not progressed to a level where there's time for back and forth, that they would continue to January. if
And 11
appropriate.
o'clock, we shut down, because we used to stay till midnight, so.
That's good, Mr. Chairman, because by 10:55, I usually shut
Yeah,
down. so.
exactly, thank you.
Can you sign the continuance form, sir?
Certainly. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, members.
Thank you, thank you. I'm going to recuse myself on the next hearing.
You too.
Good night, sir.
Good evening. We will start the public hearing for 350 Granite Street, file number 8742, major modification to special permit, site plan review decisions, applicant Fox Rock of Braintree. I will just read into record notice of the public hearing. Notice is given by the planning board under the provisions of MGL Chapter 40A, Sections 9 and 11, and the Braintree zoning bylaw, Chapter 135, Articles 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 12, and 14, that a public hearing will be conducted on Tuesday, November 14th, 2017, at 7:15 p.m. in the Braintree Town Hall. The planning board will consider a major modification to site plan review and special permit decisions 87-42 by the applicant, Fox Rock Braintree, COB Realty LLC. The project involves the reconfiguration of the site access, loading docks, and parking spaces, along with the construction of a new courtyard and lobby entry. The project also includes associated drainage and landscaping improvements. This property is 7.5 acres, has an address of 350 Granite Street, is zoned highway business, and is identified on Assessor's Plan 2040 as Plot 12. I will turn it over to you, Attorney Marinelli.
Good evening, Madam Chairperson, members of the board, Frank Marinelli. It's probably easier if I stand out here with the charts. I don't have a billboard case, but this is a project for an amenities improvement at Fox Rock Properties, which is 350 Granite Street. The property is a 7.5 acre site. It's 163,000 square feet of building in two buildings that are interconnected. The building one, the westerly building, was built in the 1970s, and building two is the subject of special permit 87-42, which the staff has written to you about in the staff report. So we're here for a modification of the special permit 87-42. Again, this was built in the 70s, the westerly building, and 1989, the easterly building. The buildings were owned by New England Telephone, and then it was conveyed to Campanelli entity, and then subsequently to a Boston real estate firm, and then subsequently in 2016 to Fox Rock Properties. Fox Rock Properties is one of the region's preeminent commercial owners of real estate and management. You'll recall we were before the board for 55 Messina Drive, where they invested a great deal of money, Citra Labs. We had that project before the board a couple of months ago. So I think that they've shown a great propensity to invest in Braintree. This project tonight is really just to create state-of-the-art office space with all of the amenities that are tenant-friendly, an interior cafe, fitness center, conference center, and outside, we're going to show you where we take a loading area that's northerly facing on the property, right in this area here, and we take the loading area and flip it to the back of the building and create a nice tenant entry, northerly plaza and northerly entry. So with me is Rick Alfonso. Rick is the from Tetra Tech Engineers, and Tetra Tech prepared the site plans that you have in front of you. This is the northerly facade the way it presently exists. And you'll see the westerly building here, then the interconnection of the two buildings, but this kind of industrial look down below. This faces out towards the Dave & Buster's parking lot, which has a service road that goes back behind the South Shore Plaza. That's the easterly building there. So what we propose to do is to create this very attractive amenity, common area, new lobby, landscaping, stairway, so that it really creates a welcoming entry on the northerly facing side of the building. And what happens is what you see here, the dumpster, the loading dock, goes to the back side of the building. So we think it's a tremendous improvement. It's about 1,545 square feet of additional impervious area, but that area is already impervious with the parking lot, but the lobby plus the plaza is about 1,545 square feet. This is the floor plan, and it shows the fitness center, the new lobby, the conference center, the cafe, various tenant amenities. So this is a real estate owner that is here with a project not to expand a footprint for more office space, et cetera, but just to create new amenities. And for that reason, we're asking for an amendment to the special permit. This is a more detailed plan that shows the back of the building. I mentioned the plaza, the new plaza on this side, and then the loading bay will go to the back of the building. You see the truck in there? There's room for 2 loading bays, plus the dumpster, all of which will be relocated to the back of the building. In addition to the lobby, the new lobby that's created and this very aesthetic northerly-facing entry, we are also going to reconfigure the roadway, the entry in the front. Right now, you can see, I can trace it with my finger, but right now you have pretty much this hairpin turn. That's the existing condition. The intersection doesn't line up. The entryway doesn't line up. You have an island here, which is an existing condition, and you have the entry and the exit and the ingress egress like that. This doesn't exist. This is what we're proposing. We're proposing to line up the entry drive so that it's straight across with the existing service road. So overall, we respectfully submit to the board that these are improvements. They're improvements to common areas, to reconfiguration of the ingress and egress, and we respectfully ask your approval to make this investment in the building. Thank you.
Thank you. Should I open up to the public? Sure. I would just ask if anybody's here from the public to speak with regards to this project, to please come up front. Oh. All right. I'll ask members of the board. Member Downey, do you have any questions or comments?
I just had one question. You talked about that turn, the hairpin turn on the north. Yeah. What's the, maybe I was reading when you were talking at the same time, but there's going to be a change to that? Is that?
Yes, so this is the existing condition, and what will happen is the entry will be pushed westerly. This shows the proposed condition. So what will happen is this landscape island will be curved here, will be created and curved here, and this little island, which is in here, becomes part of a bigger area. That's in green here. The island that exists is just a small area right here in gray.
And that's the, is that road up there, the?
Service road.
That's the service
Yes.
road in the back?
It's
Yes,
gonna tee up. It'll tee up with the way you get into Dave and Buster's.
Okay. I'm trying to visualize that, where Dave and Buster's is. and-
Yeah. It's, this is just awkward. Is it on one of the small aerials that's in the packet?
Yeah, is there a, hold on,
Yeah.
1 second. Let me just see.
Oh, yeah, there we go.
Sorry about that. This does show it. So this is the westerly building, the easterly building. This is the small island I talked about. And what happens is when you come out here now, if you go in that way, you make really a sharp right turn. And you can see the way that this is east of the actual T that Ms. Santucci just talked about. This is the existing service road in front of Dave and Buster's, comes down in front of Dave and Buster's, excess parking here. And you can come into the site, but it's not lined up. So what we're going to do is cut off this tip of this island over here, and then we will make that green area there so it pushes the whole ingress over to the west.
And how long does that take to do? I'm asking because this is probably the busiest area in Braintree, and this next month would be the busiest time.
Do you have an estimate on that, Rick?
For the record, Rick Alfonso from Tetra Tech. They could do that work right at the intersection in a week. It's really a small piece of overall work, and I think given where we're at right now, I'm not even sure that it would get done this year, may have to wait till the spring.
It would take a week? Is it?
To just do, to just do the intersection work. I mean, the rest of the work that's being done on the site would take longer.
Right.
But to open that up and do the new driveway would take about a week.
Okay. That's my only question.
All right.
Basically do the work that's in the traveled way. I'm sorry. Basically to do the work that's in the traveled way, create the new driveway, close it up, and then the travel way would be perfectly fine while the rest of the work would be done inboard, on site. Make sense?
Yeah, I guess maybe I didn't ask it clear enough. Will it be shut, will traffic be able to go through there when the work's being done, or is it?
Traffic will be able to go through there. There may be a little bit of work done on the most southerly travel lane, but people, you know, they'll have to block off the drive and use cones and have someone direct traffic for that short time period. But again, I'm thinking this is more of a spring piece of work now, not right at Christmas time.
Okay.
Yeah, by the time we file the decision in the appeal period, I don't think anyone's starting that on December 15th, so.
Thank you, Member Downey. Before I move on to other members, could I just ask staff for a general just summary of where we're at?
Yeah, so Frank and I had started talking about this originally, and it kind of came up just about the curb cut, and then the property enhancements in the courtyard was also included. So I've done, obviously, a fairly lengthy staff report and the draft conditions. We do have an existing, this is an old file from 1987. It was modified, I believe, in 2008 to add some additional parking in the back, which was located within the 100-foot open space highway business zone. And then now this third proposal here for these improvements also included, which haven't, I'm not sure if Frank mentioned them, but there are some upgrades to the drainage system. Obviously, the courtyard speaks for itself, but then moving the loading and those features of the building sort of out of the public eye. The only people that will really be able to see the new loading area now that's improved with landscaping are the folks internal to the site parking around the backside. So, I mean, from the staff's perspective, it's really just an overall improvement. They are going to the Zoning Board of Appeals for some parking relief and potentially some loading relief. And they did originally seek relief for building coverage, but that has been deemed not necessary. There were some revisions made to the ordinance a couple years ago that allow properties that have parking garages in the highway business to go up to 30% building coverage. The way that we had it written in the bylaw at 25%, there's really no incentive to do structured parking. Number one, the cost, and if it's eating into your building area, then you're really, it's sort of a double hit. So trying to incentivize structured parking with uses above, below, or not within the garage at all, we figured boosting up the building coverage would help that a little bit. So give them the leeway to do the garage, but not sort of take away from the usable, leasable office, commercial, industrial, whatever that particular use might be in that particular highway business piece. So I have like 2 or 3 comments that Rick's gonna take care of those on the plans. And that's about it.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's sort of, you know, not overly detailed on my end, but a huge improvement on the property's end.
Okay.
Circulation and obviously aesthetics and appeal.
Okay.
Thank you.
Member Eng, do you have any comments or questions?
Yes, I do, Madam Chair. Counselor, could you just tell us where this extra parking is going to be located? It says that it will increase the parking to 679 spaces.
The requirement.
Yeah, that's the,
Is that the requirement?
That's the requirement, Member Eng,
Okay.
not the physical spaces.
So there's only 591 provided. So are you saying that you're not going to provide us with the required number of spaces?
so there's 602 parking spaces that exist, that's on the zoning summary. And the compilation of uses, if we're successful in tenanting the building, would require 679 parking spaces. Because we do the reconfiguration, which accounts for about 3 spaces out front, and because we flip the loading bays around to the back, we lose some of the existing parking in the back. So that goes from 602 down to 591. So that's about 11 spaces. And yes, with the dental use, the dental use is parked at 1 space for every 150 square feet. And the office is parked at 1 space for every 250 square feet. So that's the total of 679.
Yeah.
Those numbers are way beyond, as Rick will tell you, the ITE. The ITE for dental is about 1 for every 312 square feet. When you take the 591 parking spaces that we have 1 space for every 276 square feet, roughly. So we have adequate parking. Fox Rock has medical facilities on Libby Parkway, and they're just not concerned about the parking and the proposed parking. 58, to Melissa's point, 58 parking spaces were added in 2008 in the back, and I've been out there when there's plenty of parking. If you go on a site visit. So we're not concerned about the parking. We feel that there's more than enough parking.
Okay, I'm only bringing it up because what's required versus what you have. Okay.
Right, and that's always been this.
It's always, yeah, this site has had parking variances forever.
Okay.
So it has consistently never met the parking requirement. Even when they added all those spaces, they still didn't meet the parking requirement. So they've never complied,
Okay.
ever.
So,
And it's never really been a problem.
all right, so there's never been a problem with parking here at this location to the point where people can't find a parking space and park over at the, across the way where that.
Dave and Buster's
Yeah,
and
Dave
350,
Buster's
yeah.
is. Has that ever occurred, Counselor?
Well, I mean, I'm not out there every day, but
Yeah.
there's plenty of spaces on this site. Anytime I visited during the work days, you'll see in this photograph here, there's a parking garage under the Easterly building.
Okay.
I can't hold it and point at the same time. Right over there, there's parking underneath the building. There's parking around the building. There's, 591 parking spaces is adequate.
Okay. Melissa, do you know if there's been any complaints about parking needs here at this facility?
No, not to my knowledge, and I had sort of had the same conversation with Frank, that, they were here adding some parking, and, whether or not that parking was ever needed, whether or not that parking is actually utilized. Again, when I'm on the site, I don't, even the spots out in front, like
Yeah.
where the credit union used to be, were never really full. I'm not sure about the tenancy, but if they reduce it, they're gonna have to, meet the needs of the tenants, and if it fills up, they might not be able to fill the whole building. If they end up with a point where people are, their needs are exceeding the requirements, or the requirements of their lease exceed what can be provided here. But it is, I don't have the exact numbers. I think I detailed some of it in that paragraph that showed last time what the requirement was, what was provided, and sort of how it's moved forward. I believe the original variance was for 540 spaces.
Right.
And that was in the 90s, I think?
And then from 540, we went up to 602. And now, to get the reconfiguration, to create more amenities, we do lose a small amount comparatively, but we feel that historically, it's been more than enough, the parking that's out there.
Okay. With these changes, you're going to have less water absorption with more of the concrete structures. Have you checked the stormwater calculations to make sure the stormwater is adequate?
I think it changed by 0.2%, actually, so it's like 1/5 of 1%.
If I may, we did submit a stormwater report, and the building is getting slightly larger by 0.2%, but open space is actually increasing by about 3%. And the main reason for that is all the existing driveway, the intersection we were talking about before, is such a wide open, unchannelized, traveled area that when we make it smaller and put in the appropriate island, we're actually gaining green space. So we have slightly less impervious area. We're improving the drainage system, which is somewhat dilapidated. It's been in place for a long time. We've been to the Conservation Commission. In back of the building on the south side, there was actually a depression, and at one point, someone must have removed the curb, and there was a little bit of erosion going down into the wetland. We're going to be repaving that back area to get rid of the depression, adding the curbing, and we just received a negative determination from the commission because they were happy with the drainage improvements that we were going to be making. But I think the important note is we're actually increasing green space by 3%. The building increases slightly, but it's increasing in an area that's already paved. So there's really no increase in impervious area due to the building, but we reduce some of the actual pavement area.
It just seems like you're increasing the amount of concrete and.
We're not. Remember, this new courtyard is all pervious right now. It's a big, wide,
Oh, that's right.
open loading dock.
And you're putting more lawn in?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
okay. I got you. I'm all set. Good.
Member Makami, any questions or comments?
Sure, thank you. Quite a large investment, Mr. Marinelli. And is the new dental office, is that an existing tenant, or is that going into one of the vacant spots that we
That's
see?
going to be a new tenant.
A new tenant,
Yes.
okay. Okay. And are all the other, currently, how are people getting into the building? They get in from the other side? Is there an
From
entrance?
the westerly entrance.
Yeah.
Which is. let me
Kinda
just
like
get
faces
an
Granite
exhibit that
Street
shows you,
almost.
Yeah, near the parking lot?
right in here.
Okay,
That-
so is that
that's-
going to, that'll stay open?
Yes, that's going to
Okay.
stay.
And what about for the other building? Does that have another entrance on the other side as well? Got it. Yeah, you're going to have to speak in the microphone, sir.
The idea of this new courtyard is to make this the focal point of the two buildings. And there's a small entrance into this building today, and all of this will become more formalized. It'll make it easier for people coming to the site to understand where they're supposed to enter the building.
Got it, okay. And does the parking requirement cover, it covers both buildings? It's not just this building?
Correct.
Yeah,
So
the parking
it's,
is both.
it's the east and west,
both, okay.
yes, the entire building, yes.
Okay. And
And the change in use,
the change in use, right?
from office to medical.
So the other building will, easterly building will be able to use the new amenities?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense. So, okay, with the new curb cut, what's the flow of truck traffic, which used to just come in and go onto the northerly end here? So how do you envision that going? I assume that there's enough width all around the building.
Yeah, there is. Right, we've, I know that Ms. Santucci has talked with the fire department. We've changed the parking on the southerly side of the building to 45-degree
Yeah.
parking spaces. So to do that, we've taken out some cross-hatching, so there's only parking now and a straight-through fire lane. But, they're able to make the turning radius to back in. Question came up earlier about the number of bays, and under Section 814, it's one loading space for office, and what we've done is we've matched the number of loading spaces. So out in the front now, on the northerly side, there's two loading docks, and we've kept that same proportion around the back.
On the other side, right? So,
Is one straight in and then one at the back of the compactor?
Actually, they go side by side, which you can see best in this exhibit.
Okay, so right next, so it's compactor, bay?
Correct.
Okay, thank you for that clarification.
Yep.
okay, so if the trash truck comes in, how do we, I'm just curious to see what the flow
Right,
is.
the idea would be, the easiest way would be to enter from this driveway,
Okay.
come straight toward the back of the site in a, easterly direction, back into the loading dock. They could leave this way, or it might be easier to leave that way. So this would be the shortest route. Remember, once the building is...
That's one way, though.
Once yeah, right, okay, so the plan would be to go that way. But remember,
They're only
once-
going one way.
Once the building is occupied, we're talking about FedEx trucks and small vehicles. You know, you might see tractor trailers during a move-in, but most of the trucks moving through the site would be, the trucks you'd see in an office building. They'll be able to move through quite easily.
So none of the tenants require semis and all that kind of stuff? Okay, that's what I was getting at. All right. And is there going to be any renewed plantings or beautification plan besides what you're doing in the new entrance?
They're planning to improve some of the landscaping, and they intend to do that. We have not shown all of the landscaping that they're thinking of on the drawings because they're not sure exactly what they want to do yet. The landscaping that we have shown is the commission was concerned about some of the plantings in the buffer at the back of the site. So we added a row of vegetation there to improve that buffer between the paved area and the wetland area located behind the building. So that is on the drawings.
Okay. Okay, thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you. I do not have any additional comments or questions, so we have well, we can close the public hearing, right?
Yep, we have a correspondence list
So
with all the items that were received to date on this application. And we also have a set of updated findings. We did make findings when they added the parking area, and that has been, those have been updated, given the changes, and also noting that I believe, I haven't quantified it in detail, but I believe this proposal actually adds additional green space in that 100-foot buffer area. If you look at the large site plan, I sort of scaled it off with the orange line. And then obviously noting the conditions and just sort of referencing when I was numbering and sort of going through them, noting which ones, what condition numbers those were on the as-built certificate. And then now that I'm going through this, Attorney Marinelli, if you want to discuss the drive-through window, there was an ATM drive-up scenario created for the Liberty Bay Credit Union on the south facade in the vicinity of the 18-foot travelway and the new angled parking. We had a condition that talked about that ATM teller window only for the bank use, and the staff was suggesting that that be removed. And I don't know if that's something that you're interested in sort of keeping and maybe looked at as a modification, because obviously if that area starts to introduce stacking and queuing, then we're going to have to look at the
It
circulation
can be
again.
removed. Yeah, that can be
Removed?
removed.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So that was as-built condition 50, proposed condition number 43. That will be removed. And then everything else, absent any comments from Attorney Marinelli, are as printed.
Madam Chairperson, we've reviewed the proposed draft conditions, and they're fine with the applicant.
Okay. Chair will entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Is there a second? All in favor? Aye. Chair will entertain a motion to accept into the record all correspondence through November 10th, 2017.
So moved.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And then Chair will entertain a motion.
Madam Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to approve this major modification, special permit, site plan review, number 87-42, to move to approve.
Is there a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much.
All right, we're going to start off with the public notice. The Braintree Planning Board hereby gives notice pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 48, Section 5 of the Braintree Zoning Ordinance, Chapter 135, Articles 15, that a public hearing will be conducted on Tuesday, November 14, 2017, at 7:15 p.m. at the Braintree Town Hall. The purpose of said hearing is to review and provide recommendations to the Braintree Town Council on Council Order 17-067, a proposed rezone. The proposed rezone is by the applicant, owners, trustees of Thayer Academy, 745 Washington Street, Braintree, of Assessors Map 1053, Plot 12H, and Map 1050, Plot 14, also known as Thayer Athletic Fields and adjacent land, all located in South Braintree Park, Braxton Street off Washington Street. Council Order 17-067 proposes to rezone said property from the current zoning residential B District to Highway Business District. The property is also located within the Watershed Protection Overlay District. Okay, the rezone plan depicting the boundaries will be available at the town clerk's office. Okay, put forward. Thank you. You can identify yourself and.
I'm happy to, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, members of the board, thank you. Phil Cordero from Allen and Major Associates, civil engineer on the project. Here with me this evening, to my left, is Mr. Brian DeVellis, who will be the private developer for the ultimate use of this land pending successful rezoning. My presentation will be very, very brief this evening. I think the legal notice covered everything, and certainly the staff report was perfectly clear and concise in terms of what we're looking to do here tonight in terms of getting a favorable recommendation to move this zoning change over to town council. As referenced, we have a 13.7 acre parcel, map 1053, plot 12H, and 1050, plot 14, and a portion of the discontinued Washington Street right-of-way. The parcel is split zoned, half of it residential B and half of it highway business. We are seeking a rezone for the entirety of it to be highway business. What that will afford us the opportunity to do is to subsequently develop the turf portion of this property. There are 4 sports fields. 3 of them would be converted to an indoor sports facility with parking, and that application will actually come before this board in December. In order for us to utilize the existing parking that is on the residential portion, because we do not qualify for the exemption because it's private development, rezoning was effectively the path of least resistance to be able to continue to use that parking and have it serve not only the indoor sports facility, but also the remaining sports field that's on the land.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Good. Does the board have, the department have any comments?
No, we were back and forth a little bit on the legal description, and the staff was primarily concerned with making sure that the former discontinued portion of Washington Street, which is actually currently occupied by some recreational fields owned by Thayer, that's included also. As the board knows, ways were never zoned, so we just want to make sure that the zoning is uniform.
Consistent, yes.
Yep, throughout the entire parcel.
All right, thank you. Member Downey, any questions or comments?
No, I have none.
No? All right. Member Conley, any questions or comments?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Sir, could you, if you know, tell us what the current tax status is of the fields, given both the dual zoning and, you know, the fact that Thayer is running the fields? And then secondly, if we do the rezone, what that is going to change, if anything, in terms of the tax status?
I'll defer to Mr. DeVellis on that, sir.
Good evening. For the record, Brian DeVellis, I'm president of ESG Associates and ultimately developing the site with your anticipated approval. Currently, I believe Thayer operates the fields under their own ownership, as they're in a tax exempt, if you will. We will be a taxable entity when we come in and operate the facility. So what the value of that is ultimately yet to be determined by what we get proposed on here, but it will be taxable nonetheless.
Okay, so there will be some portions of the property, I think I read, which will contain tennis and part of the artificial turf field. Is that correct?
Sure. So of the four
Okay.
fields, if you've been out there, there's three long ones and then one kind of perpendicular to it, where we have a leasehold, a lease interest over the three existing long fields. On that will be one indoor turf, one indoor ice rink, and a half an indoor ice rink, along with 4 exterior tennis courts. The tennis courts will stay on their property. So we'll be developing the facility, roughly 90,000 square feet in parking spaces.
Okay, so in anticipation of, you know, your submittal of a proposal, I think it would be useful if you could include it for us in that. What will be taxable
Sure.
under yours and what will be non-taxable, or,
Happy to.
you know, perceived to be non-taxable?
Yep, happy to do
Okay.
so.
Okay, thank you. That's all, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Member Eng, any questions or comments?
Mr. Chairman, thank you.
Member Joyce, any questions or comments? Okay, I don't have any questions or comments. I know you're going to come before us for a letter, for later projects. So at this point, you need a recommendation?
Yes, please. Obviously, as called out in the staff report here, based on Ms. Stickney's report, she's recommending a favorable
Okay.
recommendation.
So the board will entertain a motion for favorable recommendation of the zoning board? Motion made by Member Eng, is there a second? Second by Member Downey, all in favor? Aye. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Good night.
Okay, a couple of more things on the agenda.
Was that a 5-0 vote?
Yes, 5-0, I
Thank you, Mr.
apologize.
Chairman.
Another matter on the agenda was approval of meeting minutes for October 10th, November 1st. Is everybody going to review those and study those? Okay. Louise, no exam no exam on these minutes? We're going to be okay, we just vote on? Okay. She's not going to test us on it. So, motion to approve all these?
We talked about this, is that I can participate in the Peterson Pool discussion, but I cannot vote. Is that correct?
Yes.
I
Yes.
had her correct that in the
Yes.
minutes.
Oh, you
Previous
had to
minutes
correct
said I
that?
couldn't participate, so
So you read them?
I actually read them.
Okay.
Do you really want to participate?
Excuse me, did we get that as a finding from council, or?
I don't know, I'm asking the chairman.
Okay.
I'll
Yeah,
check, I
because,
think you can participate, but he can't vote.
oh, okay, he
Yeah.
can? Oh, okay.
He can't vote. He can't ask
Obviously, the
questions.
voting part, yeah, but I wasn't
Yeah.
sure, because he wasn't a member of the board.
Yeah.
Happy not to participate.
Yeah, I know you would be. All right, so Chair will take a motion to
No,
approve.
wait a
the
second,
min-
Mr. Chairman,
okay.
just one other thing. Is it in the minutes that because I was absent for one of the Bramblewood Lane hearings, that I can no longer participate in that particular grading permit?
No.
Yeah, it just says 4 members were present, but we'll amend that to make it clear I mean, the minutes at the beginning say you weren't there, but we'll make sure that particular hearing is noted.
Right.
And you're not taking advantage of the Mullen Rule, correct?
That's right.
Did the council finally pass the Mullen Rule?
We passed it, yeah.
Oh, okay.
So if the Mullins rules was passed, can I still participate?
Well, you have to come in and you have to review all the materials and watch the tape and,
Okay, I will not participate in that particular permit hearing. Thank
we
you very
make
much.
popcorn, it's real
No,
fun.
I,
We have a
Melissa,
little
I,
appetizer card,
no, Melissa,
pick 3.
I already stated some of my concerns on that particular project.
Okay.
And, you know, from previous hearings.
Yep.
So, that's on the record.
It
So,
is.
so whatever happens to that particular project now, if those corrections are made according to my concerns, I'll be very happy.
Okay,
Okay?
Thank you.
thank you,
Okay.
Member.
So, the chair will take a motion to approve the minutes. Motion made by Member Downey. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Member Joyce. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, I guess at this point, a motion to adjourn. I want to congratulate Connor Murphy. He did a great job today. Good job. You got all those numbers correct, so that's good. Okay, so motion to adjourn was made and seconded by Member Ang. All in favor? Aye. Thanks.